This is a very important video for anyone that considers themselves to be a moral person. Douglas Murray discusses something which is really at the depth of calling a person up to their full morality. Sometimes we find ourselves in situations where we really need to step up and there are no excuses. Let's watch this together and then I'll share my thoughts about it.
I believe that that the people of Gaza have a responsibility for voting in Hamas when they had an opportunity not to. They voted in Hamas knowing what Hamas are. They allowed Hamas to carry out the coup, killing Fatah and other Palestinians and dragging their bodies behind trucks in the West Bank, in Gaza. They didn't overthrow the government. You might say, well, that's a lot to expect. Well, it was always a lot to expect. Everywhere in the world that overthrew a despotic terrorist government, it was always a lot to expect. But okay, they didn't do that. They allowed 18 years, exactly the time you need to educate a child, for Hamas to indoctrinate a new generation, not of psychopaths, because you can't make psychopaths, but you can make sociopaths. 18 years is the time you need to create a sociopath. So they voted for Hamas, allowed Hamas to carry out the coup, didn't overthrow them, allowed them to indoctrinate an entire generation of sociopaths in Gaza. They then start a war, and they want this is Israel's fault. Israel has to respond in exactly the correct way. I'm sorry, I treat the Palestinians in Gaza in the same way I would treat any other group that produced a horror like that. They're responsible for their actions. They're responsible for their actions. We held the German people responsible for the fact that they voted in the Nazis and did not get them out. We held them responsible. And we, the Allies in the Second World War, did things that Israel would never dream of doing.
He's discussing such a critical point, and that is responsibility. You know, in Jewish law, there's a concept called Adam Muad La'olam, which means that a person, a human being, is always responsible for whatever comes about through them, which means even if it would completely accidentally, someone breaks someone else's item, which they didn't intend to at all. They were sleeping and they stretched over and they banged into their lamp and broke it when they were staying over. The person is responsible. No, they didn't do it on purpose. They're still responsible. That's the height, the level of responsibility that the Torah teaches us for a person. When you had 18-year-old soldiers in Nazi Germany who were going out and killing Jews by order, do we hold them responsible or not? It's a very big moral dilemma. And here's the reality. If we do not hold them responsible, what we end up doing is promoting, supporting evil in the world. That's what we're doing. At the end of the day, they went and they murdered people for no reason whatsoever. Yes, they were in a very difficult situation. Yes, they had people who were giving them orders. Defying orders isn't easy. But it should be a lot easier to defy orders than it is to kill innocent people. And here's what happens when we don't hold people accountable. We don't hold them responsible. The more we don't hold them responsible, the worse the consequences get. The people in Gaza, the Palestinians in Gaza, they did not oppose this Hamas regime. Sure, it would not have been easy for them to, but it would have been far easier for them to than to deal with what they're dealing with now. They actually planted the seeds for what they are dealing with now. Does that mean we can go now and do whatever we want? No, and that's why Israel isn't doing that. Israel's doing everything possible not to hurt civilians, even though it should be strongly argued that the civilians are not innocent people. True, they may not be directly attacking Israel, but they are not innocent people. All of the people involved must be held responsible. You know, they say you harvest what you plant. This is what they as a people planted, and they all participated in it. And this is what they're harvesting. And tragically, this is what we're harvesting. We must hold people responsible and call it what it is. You want there to be an agreement? Give back the hostages. The fact that the UN cannot openly say, give back the hostages, and then we'll talk about, working something out, makes them directly complicit because they're not holding people responsible, and they are fully responsible for it. And they are enabling the evil of Hamas.